Okay. Hey, Mr. Farrin, thanks for taking the time to meet with me today over this interview. Right in this during this interview, I want to get a better understanding of the incarceration system as a whole in the United States through your unique perspective as the founder of the Petey Greene program. So, just starting off, can you tell me a bit more about that? How did the Petey Greene program start, and where is it now?
Well, the Petey Greene program began in 2007, and I was given the charge by the financial founder to develop a program where we would go into prisons using Princeton students initially, and they would be the initial pilot. And that's what happened. I would manage to get 23 students to go into the prison the first time, and their objective was to tutor the incarcerated people and to help them improve their reading, writing, and arithmetic, hopefully leading up to and through the GED. When we got the results of the survey, when they completed the spring semester, I was very nervous about it because everything was hinging on that as far as I was concerned. If we could, I asked on a 1 to 5 scale how they would evaluate the program, and I thought if I can get a 3.0, then maybe we could go forward. Anything below that, well, we probably have to wrap it up. But lo and behold, we got a 4.75. I was so excited when that happened. I had a bunch of papers on the kitchen table, and I sort of threw them all up in the air. My wife came in and said, "What's going on? I guess the program didn't get anywhere." I said, No, we've got real force behind this, and it can even someday go nationally, which has always been my objective, as well as Charles Puttkammer, who's our financial founder. One sidebar is, I think, interesting. When we were thinking about what the name of the program should be, Charlie Puttkammer came to me and he said, "You got to call this program the Petey Greene program." And I said, "Well, wait a minute, Charlie. Why call it Petey Greene?" He said, "Well, all I'm telling you is to call it Petey Greene, and if you agree, this program is yours. I'll never ever interfere again." So that's why we've ended up calling it the Petey Greene program, named after a guy in Washington D.C. who became very famous. He was incarcerated himself and was kind of a trickster, and the warden at the end asked him if he would go up on the top of the roof and get a guy off the roof. And he went up and talked to the guy, and sure enough, they came down in about 2 minutes. The warden said, "Man, that really, I know, took a lot of work." And Petey Greene said, it wasn't anywhere near as much work as it took me to go up there. So at any rate, that we were off and running there. He became a famous radio host, and he did everything he could to help the incarcerated people. The incarcerated system, as we moved from prison to prison and expanded the program, is in dire need of a solution. Right now, it focuses way too much on people who have lower income and people of color. It is one of the most unfair programs in the United States today, I think. And for the individuals who go in there, if they don't get a GED, imagine what a terrible chance they have of ever getting another job. And without a job, they become part of the system again, and they come back in, this time probably at a higher level of criminality. So it's really a terrible system as we have it. But the one answer is education. Education is the answer, because once they have a reasonable education, they can not only get their GEDs, but a lot of them have gone on to get their college degrees there. But even more important, once they get that, they feel like they can do things. My gosh, I can do that. I got my GED, or I got a great course in college, and I did well on it. And that changes their whole outlook in life. And there have been studies showing that if you take even one course in prison, you reduce the recidivism by 43%.
Wow.
The horrible part right now, of the people who go out, there's probably a 68% chance they will return to prison.
Wow.
So what we have there is a system which is ineffective and doesn't work, and in fact produces criminals who are even more determined to do higher crimes, and it's just a horrible, vicious cycle. And the answer is staring us right in the face. It's education. And so that has been the highlight for us. Right now, the program has expanded into 7 different states, and we have 30 colleges and 45 prisons. And there is a tremendous need for tutoring. And I'll tell you later how that has had to be altered in this COVID time.
Huh, that was really interesting. And it kind of makes me curious, like what you kind of touched on this, but what is like the average experience of the inmates that you tutor?
Well, it's all over the place. There are 3 categories in prison. One is hardened criminal. They call it ADSEG, administrative segregation. Those are people that have committed violent crime, may have even killed somebody, and are generally awaiting a higher sentence. The others is a major crime of some sort, armed robbery, things like that. And then the early entry point, lower entry point, lower crimes, is the one that we try to focus on, because A, their sentence isn't as longer, and B, they're not as hardened criminals. And so that's where we're focusing. And right now in the United States, I think there are 40% of people who don't have their high school education. So those are the people we go after, and the criminals with a lesser sentence.
Huh. Okay. And then you kind of touched on this before, but looking at like the prison system in the US as a whole, from your viewpoint, from your unique viewpoint, having worked with them for like the past 10 years, what do you think is like what are its biggest shortcomings, and what do you think about the school to prison pipeline?
Yeah, the biggest shortcoming is that it's ineffective. It's not working, and by the statistics that I told you before, and they stay in that pipeline, and it's very hard to get out of that. The answer again is getting them to believe in themselves and getting started on getting an education. That's the answer, and there's very little, unfortunately, awareness of how easily this it could be fixed. I say easily because it will work. We know that if you give people education in prison, you're going to dramatically reduce their chances of going back in. That has a tremendous effect, not only on the people, but also on the whole system, because it reduces the cost. Did you know that it costs about as much on an average? We have, as you know, 52 states, and each one has its own variant of a system. But in general, the cost to incarcerate someone is about equal to the first year of college.
Wow.
So it's costing the state a fortune, an absolute fortune, for a system which doesn't work. The hope for me always has been young people who become aware of these terrible statistics, and particularly when you view it through the lens of someone that had a bad luck in their upbringing. They did something wrong, and they're a person of color, lower socioeconomic group. It's like a whole big clamp is waiting catch it and put it in the system. So I don't think there's anything more important in the United States now than to start getting young people involved in not accepting this system, because nobody my age or around there is going to do it. And then they start to do. We've seen a lot of things happening, which I think are good for society right now, like Black Lives Matter and other things, where you see the construct of that. They're mainly young people. I'd love to see those young people out there boycotting, not boycotting, but really getting people aware of the injustice of the criminal justice system. In fact, I call it the criminal injustice system. It just doesn't work. But the young people of this country can remedy that if they really get behind it. Because once people get aware of the facts, change can happen.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And in light of the recent COVID-19 pandemic, has that had a major effect on the incarceration system? I've seen headlines about how prisons don't really know what to do. How has that affected the Petey Greene program, and how is it affecting incarcerated individuals?
Well, it's a good question, and it's had a dramatic effect. Right now, said quite simply, we can't send volunteers from colleges into the prison right now. Completely shut down, and that's nationwide. They're too afraid of COVID and what might happen. And so we've had to work. We're not going to be able to go this entire year, calendar year. It'll be reviewed again in January. I'm talking about New Jersey particularly now. Our program as such was ground to a complete stop. But great things can happen when change is forced on you. And I'm a great believer in that, even though it did immeasurable short-term damage to us, because we had to rethink the whole program. And now what we're doing is we're working with a tablet company to have people on Zoom and other online ways. They're going in and helping the incarcerated people who are now getting tablets. And that's very important for them. It's a tool, education tool, but they don't know how to use it properly. But in come the college people that we had that were going into the prison are now helping them learn how to become more computer illiterate. And I'm sure you know that's incredibly important nowadays. So, and we're just in the midst of implementing that program, but it's a tremendous change. It's a tremendous change.
Yeah, exactly. I've had to do the same thing with my high school. We've gone completely online, and it's really, you have to be taught how to use the tools you're given well, because it's very easy to get distracted, and it's not as easy as in-person learning. So that's really important. But again, this is another thing you've briefly gone over before, but there's you put a lot of emphasis on like the issues of like the prison system, and you said that awareness could help solve them. Are there any other steps that need to be taken beyond just raising awareness to help like improve the incarceration system as a whole in the US?
Yeah, well, as I think you know, I have a strong international career, and I think the United States falls down greatly when it doesn't look at what's happening in other parts of the world and learn from that. I mean, we have most resources for sure, but there are a lot of people, particularly in Europe, who are doing really exciting things to change dramatically the prison system. I mean, you may have seen there's been a few programs on TV showing people in Germany and in Scandinavian countries, It looks like the people are staying in a hotel. It's just amazing. They give them a key, and then they go in and they treat them not so much like criminals, but more like people who've made a mistake, and we're going to help you get over that mistake and go back into society. And they have great results. To me, I think it would be wonderful if we could get some people from the United States who are running prisons in the US and let them go look at some of these European prisons and hopefully convert them to starting to make steps in that direction. Because there's so much you can do, this is the time to do it. This is the time to do it.
Huh. That's really interesting. So it basically takes just a fundamental change of how we view criminals. Like we
Right.
see them as this alien force that's just evil, like they're people. And a lot of times these are crimes of desperation where like you need food,
Right.
so you go steal something. And that's really interesting. That takes like a fundamental change of belief.
Yes, it does, and I think it also starts by what people that I know now. They're talking about people who leave prison as returning citizens.
Yeah, exactly.
Re- Returning citizens. That's what they are. They're returning citizens. And if you call them criminals that are coming out, already you've made it very, very tough for them.
Yeah.
But it starts with awareness of that, and even a change of nomenclature.
Yeah, that name sticks with them and follows them.
Mm-hmm.
It's their job.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay. And then to wrap this up, um, one last question. Is there anything that a volunteer like myself, I'm really interested in the issue of the incarceration system in the US. Is there anything a volunteer like myself should be doing to try to help solve these issues in the incarceration system? Is there like, because I'm under the age of 18, so I'm legally not allowed to go into prisons to help. But what should someone passionate about this issue like me be doing?
Well, first is research, which I know you're a near wizard of. Uh, Research the system, particularly with the emphasis on the composition of people who are trapped in the system. That's one thing, and make people aware of that. And something else is to once you're able to visit the prison, I would get a program which takes you into the prison, so you can meet and talk to and work with people. That's the second thing, and the third thing is once you've done that, to become an advocate for change in all that it entails. And I know you've done some thinking and working on this, James, but I think you could. It would help. You could lead groups around this whole thing. At Princeton, we started something called SPEAR, Students for Prison Education and Reform, and it has done dramatic things to introduce the criminal justice system to people. The awareness, you could help a lot in the awareness to people, and as you get deeper into the awareness, the next phase is specific areas where you see openings to do things that will make a big difference. So much to do. I mean, there's reentry programs. There's this thing that we're doing, tutoring. There's the encouraging of people to go visit people. It's unlimited how much of an opportunity of various ways you can help.
That's great to hear. Okay. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me, Mr. Farrin. I think your viewpoint is so unique, and I think that it needs to be shared because I feel like, yeah, your viewpoint kind of gives you a look on this situation that not many people have.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to reiterate that I'm really thankful you did this interview with me.
Well, it's been a pleasure, and good luck in your search, and what I know is going to be a great career.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Farrin.